So hit record.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, it is now 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee, May 17th, regularly scheduled meeting. I'll recognize that we have full attendance of Township Committee. Meeting in person at 1 Miller Lane. And the meeting is available via Zoom and through the doors. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News, Somerville, Bernardsville News, and Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 7th, 2021.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, as we've been starting our meetings off for what seems like a very long time, we just go over the COVID numbers. As of this afternoon, COVID numbers for Bedminster are at 427 total confirmed cases. And for those who've been paying attention, this last year, been saying 427 are the laboratory confirmed cases coming from the state. That does not include rapid tests and certainly does not include those who have contracted COVID but were never tested. And we remain at 5 fatalities, and we've been at that 5 fatality numbers for several months, and we hope it does not increase. But another set of numbers that I think are perhaps telling of where Bedminster is on COVID are the number of vaccinations. So the data I'm giving you is from the state website. This is not super secret information. The amount of residents who have received 1 dose. So, and this is across all ages, 59% of Bedminster residents have had at least 1 dose of vaccine. For ages 18 and over, that number is 71%. For ages 65 and over, that number is 95%. For those who have completed their vaccine course across all ages, the number is 48%. 18 and over, that number is 57%. And for 65 and over, that number is 87%. Which sort of brings us to where we are today with the recommendations coming from the CDC, calling for end of mask mandates for outside and for indoors, and where we stand with New Jersey, where the governor has already indicated that the mask mandate for outdoors will be ending, and he'll be signing, I believe, an executive order to that effect. But the indoor mask mandate will remain in place. I'm going to touch upon this a little bit more when we come to the farmers market, because there are some things that I want to put forth to the Township Committee to make sure that everyone on here is on board with some ideas for the farmers market and the operation of the market with respect to COVID protocols. Public comment. So there are 2 opportunities, 2 ways to participate with public comment. If you are participating on tonight's call by phone and you've dialed in, you can raise your hand to be recognized for public comment by dialing *9 on the phone's dial pad, and you'll be recognized by Ms. Ray. And if you are participating via Zoom through your computer, take your scroll and go down to the bottom of the screen, click on the icon labeled participants, and you'll get a pop-up to prompt you to click on raise hand. And if you wish to make a public comment through Zoom, that's how you do it. So Ms. Ray, we do have, oh, and if you are in person, we do have one person who's here, one member of the public. So if you wish to make a public comment, raise your hand, literally. And Ms. Ray will give you the microphone. So Ms. Ray, do we have anyone wishing to make a public comment?
I see no public comments, Mayor.
Okay, so let's move on to the approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes to approve. May 3, 2021 Township Committee meeting at 7 p.m. and the May 3rd, 2021 executive session, which ended as close to May 4 as you can get. Those of us who were in attendance remember that. Any questions or comments regarding the minutes that have not otherwise been provided to Ms. Ray? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits and raffles, we have none. So let's go on to monthly report discussions by subcommittee chair, Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I'll be quick. Historic Pres is meeting later this week, so I'll have an update next meeting on that. DPW, excuse me, continues to do mowing across, they're getting the fields up and running. Okura has been paved. So I believe all of our local roads that we had in the queue for this year have been completed with the exception of the Black River Road. Got a couple personnel issues with DPW that we'll be working through, but things seem to be, proceeding. Given we've got a sort of a light bench down there, but we'll work to replace that. That's really all I've got.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you. Good evening, all. Quick update, Board of Health. We have a meeting this Thursday where the Board of Health plans to review and adopt a marijuana resolution as input into this committee. I will provide highlights of that resolution at our next Township Committee meeting. Mayor, I think we have Farmers Market tomorrow and Library Board on Wednesday, so more to
Yes,
report
we
out
do.
at our next meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, cool. Committeewoman Mareski.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everybody. The Environmental Commission has been busy putting together some more programs. So our BAT night, as I think I mentioned before, I haven't given you a date before, is Friday, June 18th at 7 p.m. River Road Park. Our own Dawn March right here will be present and welcome everybody. We have the well testing program now that has a date of May 26th from 5 to 7 p.m. It's here in Town Hall. Robin, did you know? Then we have 2 more programs. The dates are to be decided, but we're having a lead testing program that will be held at the Farmers Market. Raritan Headwaters will be taking care of that. And then we have a repeat performance from Anna Farneski with her Neshannock Station apiaries. They're going to participate in the Farmers Market again, and they'll have the bees back at the market on some Saturday in June. So
great.
that's exciting. Let's see, a little more information. As I've mentioned before, I've been listening in on some Zoom meetings with Let's Go Electric program hosted by RideWise for Somerset County. And although we don't have a need for a new car yet, there are a couple of electric cars that are available through New Jersey, the 2019 Nissan Leaf and the 2020 Chevy Bolt. And Jorge, I hope I say this right, Casacoberta, who is the Bernards Township Director of Public Works. They have purchased several electric cars, and I'm going to be meeting with him hopefully sometime this week, early next, to talk about which cars they have and why they chose them. I know they weren't thrilled with the cars that were on the New Jersey contract, but we'll see what he says and what he comes up with. And then last, the cannabis information that we have obtained, Colin and I are setting up meetings with the individual masters associations in the Hills to review the information that we have, that McElroy and Deutsch has given us. We'll go over what the town is responsible for, and then what the associations will have control over. For example, as we've mentioned in other meetings, it'll be the associations who determine if and when they'll allow cannabis smoking, aerosolizing, and vaping. So we've set those dates up with HVMA is on May 24th. Hills Highland is June 1st, and the HVMA is June 14th. And we'll field any questions I might have. If there's anything that we don't know, we'll come back and ask our attorneys.
Sorry, can I just jump in?
Of course.
Miscommunication with you about the community garden. So just wanted to circle back to that. Renee and I were working with Paul Ferraro on that. We got some preliminary information on what that's going to look like, blowing that out. So we're going to still analyze it a little bit more, tailor it a little bit. Renee and I will work with Paul and John Mayans to see if we can't get a scaled down version. It's not inexpensive, but the upfront cost is going to be just bringing in all the infrastructure, and let's just see how big we want it initially. So sorry for jumping in, but I will.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we did get some numbers, and it was a little bit of a sticker shock, but there are some things we can do that might make it a little bit better. So we'll work on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. So there was a rec advisory committee meeting, and the movie night has been changed to June 26th as sort of kick off the summer. It was originally scheduled for May, the same day as the farmer's market, but the advisory committee needs more time soliciting donations from local businesses so that the event is a free event for the community. So they pushed it back a month. They voted to do that. I have their input on the marijuana legislation, but I'll go over that in old business. And I think that's all the updates I have for now. As far as numbers and programs go, I gave those to you 2 weeks ago, and I'll update you next TC meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to cover some subcommittees real quick. Land Use Board. Land Use Board did consider the ordinance that we've got tonight regarding escrows, and that was found not inconsistent with the master plan. So we have that memorandum from the Land Use Board that was provided back to Ms. Ray, so we can proceed with our public hearing tonight. And both Committeeman Hickey and I went again over the marijuana legislation and the opportunities for the Land Use Board to weigh in on, and with the expectation that, if there was some comments, that they ought to do so and get them back to the Township Committee quickly. And we will continue that discussion in the next Land Use Board meeting. And there were some applications regarding the corporate suites matter that was adjourned at the request of the applicant. So we're waiting that. I believe that's scheduled for the second Land Use Board meeting in June. So that'll be, we'll be hearing that unless there's another adjournment on that matter. Farmers Market. So what I wanted to talk about was operation of the farmers market in context with the CDC guidance. And as Colin said, we do have a farmers market meeting tomorrow, but to me, the market is, it's on our park. It's in our park. So this is Bedminster Township. And while we certainly give a fair amount of deference to the folks on the Farmers Market Advisory Committee, they are an advisory board or an advisory committee. They are not the Township Committee. So what I wanted to put out was consistent with the CDC guidance and also consistent with Governor Murphy's position on outdoor masking, which is the mask mandate for outdoor activities is lifted. The concept being from the CDC that if you are vaccinated, and just as I ran through this numbers, a good part of Bedminster, Bedminster is doing a good job getting vaccinated. And the operation of the market, until that CDC guidance, we were in a position where we can encourage social distancing, we can do the one-way traffic, but we can't guarantee that there's going to be complete social distancing as the CDC had talked about it, months ago as 6 feet. We couldn't guarantee that. But with the issuance of the new guidance, my thought is remove the mask mandate for the farmers market. But at the same time, we maintain the COVID protocols that we developed last year. So for example, wear your mask, especially if you are not vaccinated or you are uncomfortable or you fall into some category that you feel that you're more susceptible, wear a mask. We've had masks available for those who may not have had them last year, and I think we'll continue to do that. We will continue to implement the one-way traffic for walking through the market. So essentially you're running counterclockwise as you enter the market and then leave through the dedicated entrance, and it could be a dedicated exit if we so choose. And that we have the signs up. Once again, reminding that we are still in a COVID situation and encouraging social distancing, but I would not impose the mask mandate at the farmer's market. And nor would I ask the farmer's market volunteers or the folks who are working there, including me and Colin and Renee in the morning, and certainly the other township committee members, not to be enforcers, right? So the mask mandate for outdoors has been lifted by the governor. There's no need for us to push something further beyond that. So before I take that back to the farmers market committee, I want to just bounce it off the township committee and make sure that we've got some concurrence on that before we move forward.
I mean, I think it's a good compromise. I think that folks that are uncomfortable, they're going to wear their masks anyway. So I think that we should, encourage that and certainly not look down upon that, right? So have the masks available, encourage it, but yeah, there's no reason I would think to require it. And then as far as the social distancing thing, I think it's the same thing. I think we've all been sort of socialized over the last year to how we interact now in public and what's expected of us to sort of leave a little space. And then look, I mean, we've been through the last year, right, where it was much different than this, and it went through without any problems. I mean,
we went through it without problems, but once the CDC issued their guidance, in my mind, that frees up the folks, running through those numbers, whether it's the, 18 and over received one vaccine, 71%, or 18 and over received, gone through the full course, 57%. We went through it last year, and maybe one or two incidences that I can recall, and I was there every day. I think this year it would be different. I think if we, especially in light of the CDC guidance, you're going to folks going like, I'm vaccinated, I don't need to wear a mask, and this is outside.
Yep.
So, Doug, I hear you, but I do think that if we don't do this, then I think we're heading towards confrontation.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting we do anything other than what you say. I just think that last year people in a mask mandate put their masks on, they came down there, they cooperated, they understand it. And I'm saying we as a society are socialized that if you're not comfortable somewhere, you throw your mask on.
Yeah, you put your mask on, absolutely.
No one looks at you twice, no one looks at you funny. What do you have a mask on for? It's everybody sort of expects it,
right?
And it's different. It's only been a year, but from when we first started wearing masks, where we all felt awkward and oh my God, I can't believe we're going to go to this social event with a mask on. I feel silly, to almost the complete opposite, where sometimes you feel like, oh gosh, I'm sheepish, I don't have a mask with me, But yeah, I mean, and they always say the mask's really actually to prevent others from getting it. So to ask someone who's quarantined, vaccinated, not quarantined, vaccinated to put a mask on, it's like, well, why would you do that?
Right.
So I get it.
Okay.
That's just me.
We're outside, the mask protects other people, not you. But if you're comfortable wearing the mask, wear the mask. It's fun. We just want everybody to be comfortable and happy out there.
Okay.
And we couldn't fit 800 people at the farmer's market if everybody was exactly 6 feet apart. You'd never get to your donuts.
And Mayor, as you mentioned, from an enforcement standpoint, we can't be out there asking people for vaccine cards. It's not practical.
No.
Don't want to do it.
I wouldn't.
Right.
I wouldn't walk that
Never.
line.
So look, everybody, as you said, last year behaved very well. We're gonna, it's the honor system, right? If you vaccinated, you take your mask off. If you're not, then follow the CDC guidelines, put your mask on. But They have to follow the honor system.
Right, and if you feel that you are not comfortable, bring your mask with you, or if you're just there and you didn't bring one with you, we'll take care of it.
We'll give you one.
We'll take care of it.
We always do that.
I agree. I think the CDC knows more about controlling diseases than I do. So if there is recommendations, you no longer have to wear masks outdoors, and the state government just issued a rule that said you also don't have to wear masks, then I'm 100% okay with people not wearing masks. And if they have, again, if they're immunocompromised or high risk and they want to choose to wear their mask, then that's perfectly fine as well. I know that I think not wearing masks when it's 95 degrees outside is gonna keep people there longer. And so that's a good thing for people can be outdoors a little bit longer. They can breathe better. So I'm 100% okay with that.
Great. Okay,
And
and
if
then.
they change their mind, we're
and-
so flexible that we can put the mandate back with our sign.
Right. And we're prepared for that. We went through that last year, just as Doug said, that if circumstances change, turn of a switch, we can go right back to where we were. And so on farmers market, so this is our last township committee meeting before the farmers market begins on
May 29th.
May 29th. So this is this year's Bedminster Farmers Market back.
Beautiful.
That's-
So Robin and Neil worked this out. So, and on the back it says, I used to be a plastic bottle. So this is a recyclable or a recycled material. Great. And then we've got back here, get into the green scene on the side. And nothing untoward on any of the other sides. And also the other giveaway, this is through one of the grants. I think the clean water grant is little doggy poop bags.
Oh.
Once again, Robin and Neil took care of that. So thank you guys. And so, we are set up. I believe we are averaging over 20 vendors, I think over 21 vendors a Saturday for the farmers market. So we'll have more vendors than last year. And also a number of the vendors that we had last year are coming in with new product, including some local dairy products. So that's pretty exciting, and very local dairy products. That's great to see. Some other meetings I had, but I will address those under old business. So moving on to the administrator's report, Ms. Ray.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. Just a couple of quick updates regarding IT. The IT manager, Vishant Saran, Committeeman Hickey, and myself, we started meeting a few months ago to assess our IT strengths and weaknesses, identify our needs, and establish priorities going forward for 2021. We came up with a pretty comprehensive list of deliverables from enhancing our virtual meetings, alterations at the police department, workstation connectivity for both the police department and the court, and Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the police, court, and here at Town Hall, upgrading our outdated phone switches, all the way to enhanced network security. So we've been making really good progress, very pleased with what's been happening on that front. Next on our list is to move forward this summer with rave communications, which is something we budgeted for, we planned for. So looking to get that going in July. For those of you who don't know what rave is, it's a community notification engagement platform that will allow the township to send out push notifications to our residents who actually subscribe. So you'd have to subscribe for this service. Larkspur Court, just certificates of occupancy were issued. There were 6 of them that were issued on Thursday. There was one issue with one of the residents. She didn't have hot water, but I just wanted to make a note that one of our Bedminster inspectors, Rich Perlman, was super. He reached out to the contractor right away, and they were able to do an inspection and the needed repairs right away for this woman, and she was able to get her hot water. She was so appreciative.
And that
She
was
called
one
back
of the
on
6
Friday.
who had just reoccupied.
Correct.
So
She
I
was
do want to
so
talk
pleased.
about that a bit. So, and certainly we've been covering this from the first meeting after the fire, is that, look, that tragedy of knocking out that entire building, that was not something that we were going to deal with. We were going to raise money and we were going to get money out. But we were going to stick with it, right? So we were going to see it through to the end and work with the residents when they were displaced, have CGP&H available to help those out in need to the extent affordable housing funds can be dedicated or can be provided to those qualifying residents who are displaced and may need alternate housing, especially as we're coming to, let's see, from February to May, February, March, April, May, coming into 4 months, there may be, the insurance coverage may be lapsing on some of those policies. So folks are still in need. But also from the other end is making sure that Bedminster staff was coordinating with the contractors for the insurers. So to make sure that Bedminster staff was ready as soon as possible to get the repairs underway, whether it was the demolition for the units that needed demolition permits, or more importantly, to work with the contractors to put those units that had minimal damage. And the only reason they were not allowed to be occupied is because they didn't have water, because the water ran through the central corridor. So by providing an alternate means of water to those units, they already received electric through a different route. So that did not go through the central area. But by getting them water in, we got 6 units reoccupied. And so I do want to give credit to Steve Dill, Ken Rogers, our plumbing inspector, Rich Perlman, and everyone at Bedminster to really, just making sure that they knew to move quickly on getting those units reoccupied. So it's glad. My understanding is that there's one more unit that is ready to be occupied, subject to a structural report on because the unit above it has some demo that, but once it's clear that the demo above is not going to impact that unit below, we should be okay. All right, I'm sorry.
No,
So
I
back
know
to the
it's fine.
administrative
I
report.
just wanted to thank Rich because he really made it happen very quickly for her. So she was getting the runaround from the association. So she was very, very pleased.
Good.
The other part is just a quick little human resources update. As you know, we have 2 DPW labor truck driver positions we've advertised for. We've got 10 applications. HR is doing phone screenings this week, and we're going to start interviewing on Tuesday. We also have interviewed for a new zoning officer, and an offer letter has been sent out. So that's a step in the right direction. And our general foreman position will be posted this week.
And so on the zoning officer, we are hopeful that by our next meeting that we can announce that a new zoning officer has been identified and offer accepted, and identify that person at the next meeting. So, cross your fingers.
And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
When you say the assistant foreman is being posted, are you talking internally, externally, or both?
Internally this week, and then externally on Monday,
Okay.
on Tuesday, actually.
Thank you.
And that's general, is that also being posted as a deputy director position?
Just general foreman.
Oh, that's the title, general foreman?
The
Okay.
title is general foreman.
Ordinances, introduction of ordinances, we have none, but we do have a public hearing of an ordinance, and that is ordinance 2021-006, which is an ordinance supplementing and amending chapter 13 entitled Land Management of the revised, general ordinances of the Township of Bedminster, 1984. As heretofore supplemented and amended by revising section 13-907 entitled Fees. So the genesis of this ordinance is revising the escrow account fees from the land use board chair and from the land use board secretary. they found themselves running in a situation where escrow fees were being depleted. And funds or requests for reimbursement were coming in from our professionals after the matter had already been approved and or denied, or there's some finality, and leaving some of our professionals sort of in in the lurch of trying to track down the applicants, which falls on the land use board secretary. So we really just took a hard look at where we stood with escrow fees, and we realized that our numbers really had not been updated in a long time. So what this what this ordinance does is takes a harder look and brings us what certainly was the indication that would be more current with some of our surrounding towns. So with that, may we have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2021-006?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that preamble, Robin, do you have any other comments, or John Bilardo, do you have any other comments on that ordinance? And certainly any comments from the Township Committee?
Mayor, I do not, as you aptly indicated, the genesis of the ordinance was from the Land Use Board, and they certainly have the expertise to determine the appropriate amount of fees to initially collect for their professionals. So it is a rather standard ordinance, and it's not unusual for governing bodies to periodically update their escrow requirements.
Okay, thank you. Township Committee, any comments? Questions?
Nope.
No, we'll open up to the public for any questions or comments regarding this ordinance. And once again, if you ready to make a comment on this ordinance, if you're participating by phone, *9, participating via Zoom, scroll to the bottom of the screen, click on participants, raise hand, click on raise hand. And if you are in person, you can once again, literally raise your hand and you can get my microphone.
I'm not seeing any comments, Mayor.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 2021-006.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And may we have a motion to approve ordinance 2021-006?
So moved.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have nothing on the consent agenda. We do have a number of matters on for resolutions. So the first resolution is resolution number 2021-069. Establishes a fee schedule for the Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company and the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department to provide fire watch or fire safety standby at any occupancy or event. Ms. Ray.
Well, I thought Steve Dill was going to be on the call this evening, so I guess I'm flying solo on this one. But this is similar to a previous ordinance that was introduced and approved with regard to hazmat cleanup. The prices are, the fees are identical. So it's just for safety standby. All I have to say.
Is this being precipitated by any event that may be going on right now?
Possibly, and
Okay.
others to come.
Okay. So if someone wanted to burn down a barn or pretend to burn down a barn, this would apply.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments regarding the resolution?
No.
Maybe we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-069.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you. Next
resolution is resolution number 2021-070. This resolution appoints Paul J. Healy of Bedminster, the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department, to serve as a volunteer firefighter.
I can speak to this one as well.
Yes, please.
So it was brought to my attention that we have a new volunteer for the fire department, and there's a resolution that's attached, an application for membership that is supposed to be approved by the governing body. So we're bringing it to your attention. I believe I attached the gentleman's application. It's already been signed off by Chief Draheim from the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department. Once the governing body approves the resolution, it is then sent on to the Firemen's Association for review. The reason we are doing this is because we actually pay workers' comp for our firemen. So that's why we need to go through this step as well as insure their vehicles. So
Okay.
that's the impetus for the resolution.
Any further questions regarding the resolution?
No questions, just glad to see that we're getting folks in the neighborhood and the community to step up and help us out with our volunteer fire department. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Am I allowed to ask, is he strong enough to lift me out my second floor window?
You can ask.
Is he strong enough?
I said you could ask.
Oh,
It doesn't mean you're
gotcha.
guaranteed an answer.
School of Steve Parker. Yeah, I second Doug's comment that it's nice to see people stepping up.
May we have motion to approve resolution number 2021-070?
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Marusky,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye, and Robin, please, if you do see firefighter Healy, please extend our appreciation on behalf of all Township Committee
certainly
and
will.
Town of Bedminster for volunteering his time and service. Brings us to resolution number 2021-071. This resolution appoints Sarah Hussman to the positions of Deputy Municipal Clerk, Deputy Registrar of Vital Statistics, and Finance Clerk, in addition to her existing responsibilities as acting qualified purchasing agent. So just a quick question. In the agenda, it says appoint Sarah Hausman to the positions, but on the resolution itself, it says appoints Sarah Hausman to the position. And just to, it may not mean anything to anyone other than me and Gina.
Correct.
But
It's one position
one
going
position.
forward. Yes, that's
it's one
correct.
position. We are just
An extra S.
recategorizing, reclassifying that position
Correct.
to involve multiple functions. Gina, you good with that explanation?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'm sorry, Robin, back to you.
So it's 1 40-hour position, merging like functions together. And we interviewed, our HR made the recommendation, as well as Deborah Stern and myself, that Sarah's the best qualified candidate for the position.
Okay, and this is consistent with discussions that we've otherwise had on this issue. Township Committee, any questions or comments regarding the resolution?
Happy to see those jobs all put together as one and consolidated.
Doug, you look like you're thinking something over,
Oh, I am.
but
I just don't know what we're permitted to talk about in public, what we're not, because some of this was on an exec last time, so I'm sort of biting my tongue. Not because anything bad, I just had an issue, but I don't know whether it's appropriate for public.
Your concerns were addressed in the resolution.
Got it.
And
Yep.
Hopefully
I
the
see.
first of many positions to be consolidated into a position.
I
And
see.
congratulations to
Thank you.
Sarah. Much deserved.
so Doug, you're satisfied?
Yeah, I'm good.
That you're, whatever you and Robin were talking about is.
My left side of my brain has talked to the right side of my brain.
Okay. May we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-071?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Marusky,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye,
Thank you.
and once again, thank you to Sarah Hausman for stepping up. And we look forward to great service from Sarah.
Thank you.
Its resolution is Resolution 2021-072. This appoints substitute plumbing, building, and fire inspector Timothy Dieterman. Ms. Ray.
So from time to time, it's necessary that we have a backup substitute inspector. And Mr. Dieterman has been with us for several years, but for some reason in 2021, he fell off the radar, but we are in need of his services. So this officially puts him on our roster to call him as a substitute at the rate that he has been getting in the past.
Any questions or comments?
None for me.
Okay, may we have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-072?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Last resolution for tonight is Resolution number 2021-073. This resolution authorizes the payment of $5,000 down payment affordability assistance for the purchase of a unit, an affordable housing unit. Any questions or comments regarding that resolution? I've seen the backup from CGP&H
Correct.
approving the application and qualifying the purchaser for affordable housing.
No, I just wanted to make one comment that I'm very happy to see funds being used to assist homeowners in purchasing their units. And I just want to welcome this individual to Bedminster. I don't know if I can say their name.
All right. May we have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-073?
So moved.
Second.
The roll call vote again, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye, and welcome to the new resident. Approval of the bill list. May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending the review of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second?
Another roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
New business. We have a matter up for new business, and we have a guest tonight. Our guest is the Environmental Commission Chair Dawn March. Dawn, welcome to the Township
All right.
Committee meeting. And great job. You're doing a great job running EC. And the public cannot see you from that spot.
You can move.
Come on up.
You wanna say anything else? I'll move over here.
You guys are cruel.
We have a guest.
You have to give a girl
We have a member of the
notice.
public.
Although Dawn always looks beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, I don't need this then if I have that, right? Correct?
Yes, that's good. Right. Matter of fact, I'll feedback otherwise.
Here, I'll take that. From
I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay, Dawn, what do you have for us?
So I would like to discuss the Bedminster Pond. Everybody's familiar with where the pond is. So I'm just going to read off my notes because that'll make it easier. These are the facts that have been presented to me and my understanding of the said facts. The parties involved over the course of the past year have been Judy Sullivan, Paul Ferrara, Dr. Christy McDonald of Raritan Headwaters, Dr. Mike Van Cleef from New Jersey Invasive Species Strike Team, Chris Borak, environmental scientist from Black Lagoon, who is our current pond maintenance vendor, and Solitude Lake Management, which is another company I reached out to, just to ensure our current vendor was doing what he was supposed to be doing. All information was obtained independently through separate conversations with Judy, Paul, and Solitude, and presentations by Raritan Headwaters, Black Lagoon, and New Jersey Invasive Species Strike Team to the Environmental Commission. So I'm going to give you a little history about the pond. The pond is approximately 6 acres. The pond was formed during the construction of Route 78 and 287 in our area. The DOT excavated the soil for use during the project, and the remaining pit that was left filled with runoff water. and that was the start of our pond. In order for a pond to maintain its health, at least a depth of 8 to 10 feet is necessary. The pond is approximately 5 to 8 feet deep, depending on the area, and that has been estimated by Black Lagoon, our current vendor. Black Lagoon does feel we really should have depth measuring done just to make sure we're in the ballpark. And the pond has been in existence for 30 plus years. So as far as depth measuring, what would be, how that would run would be, as previously stated, we need at least 8 feet or greater. Professional measuring by a pond management vendor is usually done by a drone. The information is input into a computer system, resulting in depth map of the pond. It's extremely accurate, and we get a nice glossy picture of what's going on. The approximate cost for our 6 acres is $1,500. The depth mapping can also be done manually. That would mean using a 10-foot pole with tape markings at 1 foot intervals and crossing the pond in a rowboat in a grid form pattern, and someone writing down what they find. It's not very accurate. The cost is zero because one of our commissioners, Commissioner Parker, has been discussing this as a project for the Boy Scouts. Now, obviously, one of those issues would be we have non-professionals on the pond in a rowboat. So obviously, I think we would need maybe a Boy Scout that has, lifeguard and life-saving measures on hand,
Boy Scouts always do.
Yeah.
You need an Eagle Scout for that.
hopefully. But I assume that is something that would be run through our insurance and our attorney to see if we should do that. So the cause. The main cause of the vegetation overgrowth is due to the fertilizer runoff, and to a lesser extent from birds dropping seeds. Why treat? When vegetation is treated, the dying debris falls to the bottom of the pond. When the sunlight reaches the bottom of the pond, the debris decays. If left untreated, the vegetation dies off in the fall, leaves large quantities of debris without adequate sunlight to encourage ample decay, which in turn reduces the depth of the pond. Also, when it comes to algae, an overabundance of algae will cause fish kill by depleting oxygen levels. Raritan Headwaters advised that we should do a year of water testing spanning all seasons. RHW feels it would be ideal to treat naturally using no chemicals. Of course, RWH also feels the pond may be on any natural remedies at this point. To date, 2 water samples have been taken. The pond is fairly healthy. We did have an increase of chloride, but that was due to the excessive road salting in the area. The oxygen levels were considered high enough to support most pond life. Invasive species in our pond, and this is one of our bigger issues. Currently, we have 3 invasive species that have been identified. And forgive me if I mispronounce this. We have a water milfoil, which is quick growing, spreads quickly, blocking necessary sunlight, kills off native aquatic plants that the fish and other underwater species rely on for food and shelter. It also traps the sediment. Curly leaf pondweed comes out very early, crowding out native plants, dies early summer, and then reemerges late summer. Water chestnut negatively impacts aquatic ecosystems due to rapid and abundant growth. The density of the water chestnut's mats can severely limit light penetration into the water and greatly reduces or eliminates the growth of native aquatic plants beneath its canopy. It reduces the levels of dissolved oxygen in the water and impacts other aquatic organisms and potentially leads to fish kill. Invasive species seeds can be spread by birds to our watershed. So we have some options. Option number 1, do nothing. That will result in the fact the pond will die and become a marsh. Option 2, continue with our current treatment, which consists of a one-time per season in late spring application to alleviate as much early vegetation. This is accomplished via both. Vegetation will grow back later in the season. The pond will die more slowly and eventually become a marsh. According to our current vendor, they treat in late spring, so we get more bang for our buck because it includes more weeds. But ideally, treatment should start sooner, leading to less debris and complete breakdown of the material. Our current cost is $1,325, which also includes the cost of the DEP permit to do this. Option 3, increase weed control to 5 to 7 times during the season. This will kill off the early emerging vegetation, leads to less seeding for new weed growth later in the season, less debris, more sunlight to break down debris, reducing the potential for a second cycle later in the season. This will also give the vendor a better idea of what's really going on with the pond, since he's only there one time a year. And then this way he can determine how our application should really be done. Although algae is not always bad, an overabundance will be problematic and may require attention. The estimated cost to do this more robust treatment is between $7,000 to $10,000. After weed control is achieved, possible planting of native pond plants in more shallow areas will help reestablish the balance of the pond. That would be at an additional cost, but that's for future. Option 4, ideally the pond should be dredged. All the shallow areas should be deepened. The weed should be hand pulled out or bring in underwater lawn mowers. It's incredible. Look it up on YouTube. And potentially at a fountain for oxygenation of the water. Estimated cost starting between $400,000 and $500,000. So with all of that said, the funny thing is both Raritan Headwaters and Black Lagoon made comments to me without them knowing each other's comments, and they both made the same comment. The pond of this size is a gem, and you should do what you can to keep it. So for your consideration, the consensus of the Environmental Commission is option 3, which would be to increase what we're doing, do it for a 2-year trial period, and then assess the effects of what we're doing, if it's actually worth continuing or not.
What was the cost on option 3, Dawn?
Between 7,000 and 10,000. But again, these are guesstimates.
Yeah.
I did contact Solitude. They came up with similar pricing, but slightly higher than our current vendor. Our current vendor has been doing this since 2006. So it has been helping, but we're losing depth in the pond. And once it goes below a certain level, it's also my understanding that when the overgrowth of vegetation is on the top and the sediment is on the bottom, like the fish are getting squeezed into a smaller and smaller area.
Right.
So, and here's the other thing. We have people that fish in that pond. I don't know if they sport fish or eat the fish. And I don't know how healthy that is. Although some of the information going through Google and looking on multiple websites, people think you shouldn't eat it. But I don't know if we should post anything regarding that, just to cover ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to ask whether we knew, anybody in the room, the percentage of folks that are parking there on the side of 206 North. Are they going to the pond? Or are they going beyond the pond and
Both.
going to the river?
They're going to the river and the pond.
Yeah, I think people in house fishing.
Okay.
Now, last year we had extreme heat and humidity. And that was the first year I noticed, I mean, the pond was really as Paul Ferraro would say, was skunky. And that was the first year I noticed we didn't have any waterfowl, because normally we have a swan and some ducks. We had no waterfowl last year. That's usually not a good sign. But again, I'm not an expert, and we need to pay people to come out and look at that and tell us whether or not it's a problem.
Right. And Dawn, those numbers for the option 3, that doesn't include the depth measurements that,
No, that's,
so the depth measurement is something that no matter what we should do?
yes.
Okay.
Well, just so we really have a good idea, because at this point, we're getting this estimate from Black Lagoon, who they have someone that goes out there and treats everything with a rowboat. And that's his best guess, just judging from the plants and what's going on. But nobody really knows. I did check with Paul. He didn't know. So everybody's guessing at this point. But they do know we have a lot of shallow areas, which, as he said, in the future would be great to actually plant stuff that's meant to go in a shallow area. And it just helps rebalance the pond with, and we all know we're trying to push the native plants, but now we have these issues with our invasive species. And the fact that they could potentially go into our watershed or line the river, that could be a problem. But nobody, again, nobody knows.
Right.
It
So-
could already have been started, but nobody has noticed it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, one of the residents in town, Anthony Fondaco, I think his name is, had first raised this issue to me. He's an avid fisherman. He's at the pond all the time and was noticing that it's less and less area to actually cast because there's a lack of depth of water there. So it's all consistent with what we're hearing.
Is this the natural course of a pond? Was there something that happened that made this happen, or does this just normally happen?
Well, this particular pond, it depends on the type of pond. Some ponds actually have water that comes in through piping and so forth, and it lets water out, and it's almost like a retention basin. This pond just gets runoff from the rain.
But yeah, that's what will happen when
But
there's,
this is
when
the
there's no
natural course of
outside.
what will happen if
It fills in from the bottom from
If you
dirt,
don't treat it,
become a bog.
they become marshy.
And then the option 3, does that include a fountain? Because I know you said that was like.
No.
That's the $500,000 job.
Because every pond, I know Costco's have a pond, they have a fountain, the one at Bridgewater Manor has a fountain, like, so that I can feel like that probably helps with like the.
It aerates the water.
Aerates the water.
It's awesome. I did a little research on the cost, and well, first of all, we have to have electricity there. So I don't know if we actually have electricity, so that's a problem. Depending on what size you would need, it would run between $3,000 and $5,000. It would make it look absolutely beautiful to have this fountain going in the middle, plus be healthy for the pond. But again, cost. Judy did inform me that this would be something that would come out of open space, because that's where the money to treat at the moment comes from. Ideally, as everybody said, just redo the pond, but that's astronomical.
Yeah, it's astronomical. And again, I don't know much about ponds, which is why I'm asking if it's naturally something that was going to happen. It's not like we just didn't do something or something that was going to happen because there's no.
Well, it's different than if you decide to put a pond in and then you maintain it from the beginning.
Yeah.
We inherited from a construction site
Okay.
because they used all that dirt to build the highway.
So so you asked a great question and actually took those classes in college. So yeah,
Me too.
oftentimes the life cycle of a pond is it eventually grows around the edges and it
And-
shrinks and shrinks and becomes a bog at some point.
And the
But
beavers help.
but a lot also depends on actually, the stream that's coming in and how it's flowed and how the inflow comes in and how the outflow goes out. We can't lose sight that this is essentially, it's an artificial pond.
Mhm.
So 6 acres, this was essentially was, I think the term is called a borrow pit for when they were building 287, 78. So those massive ramps that we've seen along the highway, that dirt came from that hole. Yeah. And so that it's fed through a series of runoff. Sometimes you see after a rain event, you'll see it coming down actually the hike and bike trail. You see water coming down the hike and bike trail, and you see it coming from some of the grassed areas coming down. But I think a good chunk of the water that comes in also comes from the highway from 202, 206.
It's the not eating those fish.
Yeah.
But
But apparently it's it doesn't sound like it's, other than the salts and perhaps some of the other contaminants, it doesn't sound.
They were surprised that it was
as healthy
as
as
viable
right.
as it should be. It's not gonna support, it's supporting what's there at the moment, but the window's closing on it. But nobody knows how long that's really gonna take either, because it really depends on the environment. And again, a lot of this has to do with the amount of the fertilizers that are running off from everybody's property, and, it just flows downhill. And that's, where this is all coming from.
Yeah, from that area, I would imagine it's probably not a lot of fertilizer runoff because you're surrounded by the town's green acres. It's really the road runoff. That's my guess is that's probably
But that was
the most
Black
drag.
Lagoon and Raritan Headwaters felt, when they looked at the test results, that the fertilizer, I guess nitrates and so forth, were high.
Right, but if they were super high, you probably wouldn't see the oxygen levels as high as they were. So the fact that you said, I think in the beginning you said that the oxygen levels were high enough to support
Most.
Right. So if you had a lot of fertilizer, you might see that those numbers change.
Could some of that water be coming like from Hills Highland and down?
They have to cross over the river.
Oh, that's true. There's a river between them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a no.
So, no, I mean, Gina raises a great point, since it is an artificial pond and we're trying to maintain it.
It was just kind of like a product of trying to build roads that.
And then it became,
We want to have this pond here.
right, and it became this feature. So yeah, you're dead on. We're definitely treating
There
it
was no
as.
plan for this pond. The plan was to build the road.
Yeah.
That's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, the plan was for a pit. The pit filled in with water.
It just filled in.
And now we have our hike and bike trail runs there and.
Hey, we've got an asset. And the funny thing is, when I knocked on doors last year, you hear a bunch of issues. What I was not prepared to hear was, hey, what's going on with the pond? I heard it from multiple people at multiple doors. They're like, I walk by there because I've gone out the trails and it smells and I really think it's a great asset. And what are you guys going to do to fix it?
Yeah.
So look, we've been handed an asset and it's our responsibility to go figure out
Exactly.
to do something with it.
Well, as I said, so our point is, of course, you can do nothing.
Right.
And we respect that and have it turned to a marsh. It's almost, part of us feel it's a waste to spend the little Band-Aid money in the beginning of the spring, because come July, everything has grown back already.
Oh, yeah, you see it. You see I
So-
guess that's the water chestnuts, those big leaves that you see around the perimeter, and they go out sometimes, you see
So we're
small
just,
turtles on there and larger turtles.
so we're doing something, but not enough to help it, just give it a slower death maybe.
Right.
But that's almost a waste of money.
And the expense with dredge is, it's not the aerator, it's the equipment and it's the disposal.
Disposal.
So
is huge.
once you bring in, you bring in the backhoes and literally they would do that. The backhoes would come on in and they would just scoop up. But that's where the expense comes
to
in.
get rid of
The
it.
expense comes in getting rid of dredge because there's only certain places that can accept it. So that's really where the
Yes, that's very
Bucks come in.
expensive. And then, as I said, they have these huge machines that go in, and they were showing these ponds that they were doing, and it was just incredible. But that really goes down and digs them out from all their roots.
Right.
And it doesn't leave the debris in the pond. But those are more ponds that people tend to swim in. They're stream fed. So that's a different situation.
So Dawn, would the mapping be a prerequisite to making the investment even in option 3? should we do that before we invest the 7 to 10 a year?
I think the mapping's a good idea because if there's really not enough, and again, we would bring that up to those that know better. If it's not deep enough, if it's just beyond that and we're not dredging,
Right.
then we're pretty much done, I would think. But I'm not an expert on it.
Well, but you said to do 2-year pilot to see.
But yeah, but I think the mapping is important just to know for sure. If there's only a small area, but we're not really sure how deep it is.
Right.
We really don't know.
But if it's
This-
not deep enough, then there's no sense in starting even the $7,000
Right,
because
right. That's
there's
fine.
not enough water to treat.
Right.
It's
Right.
now it's really on its way out.
Right.
Then there's do a little bit maybe so we can do the fishing camps, but then it's just too late. But if we can't tell how deep it is, so
Right.
do the mapping like Don says. We'll see if it's a viable depth.
Yep.
And then you have a conversation.
So the fish that's in there, so when the state stocks, they stock the river. So did they discuss what fish are actually in the pond?
I understand that there are some really huge carp and some sunfish. And the thought process is from water runoff and birds, the eggs have been dropped into the pond.
Okay, that's interesting.
Carp is so delicious.
That's Bedminster carp we're talking about.
I'm sorry. It probably is good.
So again, we just figured since this was brought up to us last year, that we would look into it and see if it was what the options were to do. We're not pushing one way or the other, but we really think that the once-a-year treatment's really not doing anything except for 6 weeks. You know, because then when it gets really hot in the summer, it just,
Yep, no, I think we've all been by, all been by there.
and the first time I noticed the pond, I unfortunately don't go on the bike and hike trail too often. I didn't even realize there was a pond there because you see like lots of green, but I noticed a swan. I'm going, is that a swan? You know, so I went through the thickets and I'm like, oh my God, there's this huge pond there. So then I will go and just to see the swan, but the swan wasn't there
And
anymore.
you'll see in September, October, maybe even into November, hundreds of geese.
Uh-huh.
So it's a great little station on the way north or the way south, depending on which way they're going. But you'll just see
And that
that
is-
entire surface.
And that could be a lot of added fertilizer,
I
right?
was gonna say,
Yes.
those geese add a lot to the depth
Yes.
of the thing.
Yes.
That could be a real big place of nitrates.
Which may
Right?
prohibit
Yep.
your fountain, by the way, because all that stuff collects on the bottom and gets sucked into the intake.
It does.
It does.
But does the fountain dissuade them? Although obviously it's 6 acres.
Not for 6
it's-
acres.
So,
And we're just putting that out for your consideration. If you have any questions, and if I don't know the answers, I can get them for you. I know
well, it
the
sounds like the
conditions-
depth measuring is sort of the start.
Yeah.
The start. I mean, from my standpoint, I would certainly like the mapping. So, and to get something that's precise, probably would be the drone setting. But certainly if WIT wanted to get the Boy Scouts out to certainly be interesting to see how the drone mapping compares with, and as
Mark
the
Twain.
father of 2 Eagle Scouts who did a fair amount of, they did canoeing on a pond. For one thing, Boy Scouts are totally, they don't touch water without going through all the proper safety equipment and the training. So
Okay.
Boy Scouts, if they're going to be on water.
they're going to be good.
Don't they have their own
they're
insurance
prepped for it.
anyway?
Yeah,
So
and
we don't have to
and
worry about
we don't
compensating.
ask folks who are canoeing on the rivers or anything else. So,
So we don't have to worry about that.
but I would certainly support the drone mapping. And then if WIT certainly wanted to run it for comparison, I would just really be curious to see
No, that would
Have the
be,
stick.
that would
lines
be
there.
actually very, very good to do.
Also with GPS so that they've got these programs. And the Boy Scouts have used these because I've seen them use it on trail mapping. So they have a GPS, stick it, and then you can correlate that back to your other mapping and see how it all works out. And then perhaps, revisit that option 3. But based upon that also, because as you said, knowing what the depth and sort of the transition from the banks down, that gives you a better handle if you're going to come in with replacement native plants, what you should do, because you don't want to put a plant that needs a foot of depth where it's only 6 inches.
Right, correct.
So I think that's certainly a no-brainer to kick off with.
Absolutely.
If you do that, are we coming up to the late spring treatment? Is that already in front of us?
They already did as far as I know. I'm trying to remember. It was going to be late May or the first week of June.
Yeah, I don't have an invoice or anything.
Yeah,
so-
you haven't gotten an invoice yet, but we signed the contract for it. But he hasn't said the invoicing yet. I believe he was planning late. Again, they look at the weather, they see what starts to come up, but some of our stuff has already come up and it's already big. But they want to catch as much of it as possible, so we at least get a few weeks of looking nice. And then the algae comes in, although algae not always bad. Sometimes it's good to have, you just can't have too much of it. It's all a balance and everything lives off of each other. And
Like I said, last year was really warm, and I think by the end of the summer, it was really,
you can almost walk on that.
yeah, right, exactly, yeah, and you could smell it.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, it is, listen, water, look, everybody loves water to look at and be by and walk, right? The river and everything. But again, it's a cost concern.
Mhm.
And if unfortunately, if it's already in its winter years, then maybe we just let it go peacefully.
I like how she put that, winter years.
As a seasoned winter person, I've been told.
Let's see
But
let's see if we get a few more years out of it, right?
I do thank you for your consideration.
Thank
As I
you.
said, in the
Yeah,
beginning,
that's
I didn't even know what there was a pond. And then now I'm talking milfoil and my husband's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So
Appreciate
again, thank you
the,
so much. I
report.
really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Dawn.
Thank you.
So moving forward, do we have consensus on certainly doing the mapping?
Yeah, let's do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let's get the data.
And- What's that? Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly if Whit Parker can coordinate with the Boy Scouts, that'd be great.
As I said, my only concern about Boy Scouts, and when I say, I know other people go on and do things, but we're sending them onto the pond. So I didn't know if we had-
They're volunteering.
Okay.
Robin says they have their own insurance, so we don't have to worry about
And
it.
the Boy Scouts did.
But you would need an insurance certificate or you have like.
I need a new one for this year.
And if the Boy Scouts data is better than the GPS mapping, then we want a refund. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
And
can also check with Chris Borak from Black Lagoon to see if he has information on the drone and send it all to you guys so you have it.
That'd be great.
And also, I guess it'd be interesting just to see the influence into the pond. Is it hard pipe directly, or is it just overland flow coming off 202, 206?
So when Raritan Headwaters was out there, Dr. McDonald sent me pictures of these 2 huge pipes, which gave me hope that it was part of the stormwater management. Paul Ferrara said it was definitely not ours from the beginning. And then part of me is like, maybe it's AT&T, and I was gonna talk to them about charging the pond. But I showed Paul the pictures, and he said, unfortunately, all that is, you see that big paving, when they showed me the pictures,
that is piping that was left there by the DOT that is eventually covered over with dirt. He said, it's just garbage there.
Wow.
So there's an outfall pipe by the hike and bike trail where it's closest, where the river comes closest to the, pond comes closest to the river. And you see the outfall going into the river, and you see sort of there's some riprap stone for the outlet pipe coming from the pond in that one little corner. I'm just not really sure how it's fed. So I guess it's either the natural water table is probably part of it, and then probably just that overland flow. If those pipes are not really, the pipes that are coming in are not influent pipes, they're not draining from the highway, then it's probably just overland flow.
And when I mentioned to Paul, I heard that there was an outlet pipe. He doesn't know why that's there. It has nothing to do with stormwater management. So it was never set up to be a true retention
Right.
basin.
Right. It would look a little bit different if this was
Well, and then-
designed.
And then you're obligated to maintain it, because we have, 4 or 5 of them in the hills.
But what's also interesting is, Colin has been through this with, actually one of our board members calling on something else. Black River with the dredging and the creating of those cold water spots out there. So we do know that there are a series of different grants available for water improvement. That was, Colin, was that Fish and Wildlife? Was that a?
Yeah, it was the DEP, right?
No, that was that was at the federal level.
I thought it was Fish and Wildlife rep there.
No, they may have been there to observe, but it may have been the state Fish and Wildlife, but the
Oh, okay.
grant itself came from the feds.
Got it. Yeah, I
It
think
came from the US Fish and Wildlife Service, or BLM, may have been land management.
Didn't Robert get those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, they
Mhm.
procured everything.
So it may just, there may be some grants out there at both the state and federal level for water improvement. And there's certainly a bunch of loan programs, but grants would be better.
Yeah.
So if there's someone, maybe there's someone on EC that wants to explore that. Okay, great. Is that John? Oh, it's Graciela. Okay, great. All right, any other further questions?
Thank you all.
All right, and
So
so
thank you
Robin,
Thank
all
you, John.
so much.
so you just get that information on the mapping over to Robin? Great.
Absolutely.
Okay, on to old business.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. Cannabis. So Colin, you want to, where you and Renee left off about coordinating with the condo associations?
Yeah, the meeting's been set up, as Renee mentioned, so we'll kind of give the HOAs a heads up in terms of, what information they may need to review to make their own decisions. And then we'll report back once we have those meetings.
And Board of Health, we should have a memorandum from them.
We'll have that, they presumably will pass that on Thursday, and then I'll highlight that for our next meeting.
Okay, and Gina from Rec?
Yes, so rec weighed in, I asked them for their input, and they thought that consumption of any sorts in public should be regulated and treated like alcohol use and not like cigarette use because of the intoxication component. So it's not just like you're smoking, you're also intoxicated. So they felt like all fees and fines should be similar to that of alcohol consumption. They thought we should look into Green Acres land since it is state land and figure out what is, up to the town to decide since it is kind of Green Acres. And they thought licenses to consume or sell or grow or anything should be similar to that of the alcohol licenses. So basically their input was that the consumption in our town should be treated like that of alcohol use. And And they also thought that they would be okay with a growth facility and a high-end storefront. So that was
Okay.
just their input.
Anything from your committees yet, or that's just DPW and
Yeah.
they're not gonna?
Yeah, you don't
And
want.
They're for it.
Land use covered. And Colin and I will talk to land use board one more time. And John, if you, you're already off mute. So John, working back off the August deadline. So if we're going to introduce an ordinance or series of ordinances with referral back to the planning board for consistency determination, what are we looking at as far as timing?
What we did in Bernard's is we approached it two ways. The one was in terms of, penalizing consumption of cannabis in public. That is a general health, safety, and welfare ordinance that is introduced like any of your other ordinances. It is not referred to the planning board. There is a public hearing. A prohibition of certain uses is a zoning ordinance. It does go over to the planning board, and they have 35 days in which to send back a report to you, and then you have a public hearing. So depending upon your summer schedule, and I still believe you certainly do have enough time, you just have to take those deadlines into account.
So John, since you've, and I take it that your office drafted those ordinances for Bernard's Township?
We did. They were very Bernard's specific.
So my suggestion would be to ask John and his office to put together a series of similar ordinances for Bedminster, and we can pick and choose.
Having anticipated that, my colleague, Ms. Riley, is already in the process of doing that. So we can get that to you relatively quickly. One of the things that did come up in Bernard's, we should probably call to your attention, it was an issue that was raised, is medical cultivators, medical growers, medical dispensaries are not subject to this 5-year opt-out. So they are not part of this legislation. So the issue came up in Bernard's as to whether they also wanted to prohibit the medical dispensaries and other uses. At this particular time, they did not move forward in that regard, feeling that their existing zoning ordinances prohibited those. So I just want to call that distinction to your attention because it was raised by several members of the public at the public hearing. This is just relating to the licenses that were part of the new legislation, whether it be cultivation, growing, retail, distribution, et cetera.
And just so everyone knows, I believe that the Borough of Somerville and Borough of Raritan have announced that they're welcoming dispensaries. So it's not as if Somerset County or even the northern part of Somerset County is deprived of access to dispensaries. They're 5 to 10 minutes down the road. So, I noticed that there were concerns about, what's going on, if what's going to happen if we said no and Bridgewater says no, does this create a whole, sort of like a marijuana desert or a vacuum? But the fact that it will be available in Somerville and Raritan, I think takes the pressure off that, hey, if we opt out, that residents still have access to it if they want, just down the road. So I think that also factors into our calculus. And, so John, you think that will you be, or Melissa will be in position to present that for discussion? You think we're still good if we have that in June, and maybe in the second meeting in June, we can then introduce?
I'm not aware of your schedule, but that certainly would seem to give you enough time to meet the, I think August 21 or 22nd deadline.
Okay, so in that case, I would say have Melissa present it. So that every member of the TC gets an opportunity to review, and then at the second meeting in June, we can talk about moving forward with each element.
And we'll get that to you far in advance of your next meeting in a draft form.
Great.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
COVID-19, we already covered the COVID-19. Pluckman Park housing, that's something you want to discuss separately?
Yeah, we've got an update on that, but it's in our exec. It's involving contract negotiations. So,
Okay.
But there is an update, positive development. So last time I reported in public that we were concerned that it was sort of dead. And then serendipity happened and we got communication. So it's not dead. So it's moving forward, but we need to huddle up and talk amongst ourselves.
Great. Utilities.
Mayor, just one quick update. New Jersey American Water, I'm pleased to report that they have begun crediting the accounts of those impacted by the Larkspur Court fire, who, as I mentioned last time, were still being billed for sewer service despite the fact they had no access to the unit since mid-February. I just want to express my thanks to our government relations contacts at New Jersey American Water, who immediately sprung to action upon being notified of the issue. Dave Mayer and Sakima James. Their office is always incredibly responsive to the needs of our residents. So I just want to recognize them and thank them again. And that's all I have.
Great. And the first thing I do want to talk about, you and I had both had discussions regarding 5G. And so just so everyone knows, just a reminder, Colin and I sort of split up the 5G inquiries both to AT&T and to Verizon. And so we are both pushing that, both with our respective contacts, and hope to have some information whether 5G will be a viable replacement for cable service in Bedminster. So that, let's just put that under utilities and we'll come back to it on as more information is gathered. Okay, proposed construction fees.
Okay, so I just wanted to run this by the township committee. I'm meeting, Renee and I are meeting with the construction official on Wednesday. So we wanted to kind of update you on what I found. I interviewed 2 local realtors since they have most to do with people moving in and out of Bedminster. And one from Turpin Realtors, one from Caldwell Banker. And also the owners of a local real estate agency that works in this area. So the realtors said that they pull Oprah requests. So this is regarding a requirement for Oprah requests and tentative penalties for homeowners with open permits and the construction fee increase that our construction official presented to us at a previous meeting. So I just have some notes here that I just want to tell you guys what I found. The realtors both said that they pull Oprah requests during attorney review, and that every realtor in the agency does that. And if the realtor does not do that, lawyers will then pull the Oprah request. A property will not close without permits being closed or the homeowner and the purchaser being aware that there are open permits. So this is not a big secret. It's what they do first thing as soon as you're in attorney review.
No one goes to jail?
No one goes to jail. Renee was going to speak with a real estate lawyer, so she didn't get, but that's okay. So they also said the town should not get involved in the legal aspect of things, because if you require something, then you can be held liable. So for example, if you're requiring people to pull Oprah requests and then something happens, the town could ultimately be liable. So it should not be getting involved in the legal aspect. This is what they said. Bernardsville and Basking Ridge have right on their website the availability to check open permits on any property. So they said maybe look into upgrading our technology so that anyone can do that. They said that it would be viewed as a money grab, that often homeowners have very little to do with the permit process. It's usually a contractor who takes out the permits, and you may have had an electrical permit, a plumbing permit, taken out and the inspector comes and those are closed out, but the overall permit has not been closed out. So most of the time homeowners don't even know that there's an open permit. So penalizing them in any way would be viewed as a money grab and also quote unquote absurd. That's what they said.
Did they know about the going to jail part?
No, I did not even
You
mention
didn't,
that.
you didn't tell them about that?
I did not mention
All
that.
right,
They said if word gets around, which it will, that will actually deter people from taking out permits in the first place. And it will delay closing and it's just unnecessary. As far as so I'm going to discuss this with the construction official on Wednesday, but I want to run it by you all on the township committee first, and that the fee increases are very reasonable. They said, as far as they know, Bedminster's been undercharging for many years. So this just brings them kind of up to where everybody else is.
All right, sounds like we picked the right person to pick this issue up. Gee.
So I just informing you of what I found. So do you have any comments or anything you would like me to discuss with the construction official or Renee to discuss?
Just in hearing your report, it seems like on the one hand, bumping the fees is going to be viewed as a money grab, but then the report is that the bump in the fees is totally reasonable. So am I missing something?
No, the Oprah request for having, okay, sorry. So all the things that are viewed as a money grab, all the first things I was talking about was not the fees. It was about having open permits and penalizing
In
people.
order to close title. Gotcha.
So that's what they said is unreasonable and would be viewed as a money grab, and it's just unnecessary. They do that anyway, and the town shouldn't be getting involved. But the fee increase is just reasonable. They said it seems very reasonable.
So you're saying that the feedback is that, yes, go forward with the fee increase, but then don't put any bells and whistles that obligates buyers, sellers to go in and
Pull the
figure it out,
permit.
true it up. And
Mhm.
move on.
And if not, then you're subject to penalties and
And jail time.
Or
jail time.
Yeah, just penalizing the homeowner in any way they said is absurd. It quote, I'm quoting, absurd. That most homeowners don't even know that has nothing to do with them. They didn't take the permits out in the first place, and to penalize them is just,
And let's face it, subject to the whims of the contractors who, based on their own record keeping, may or may not ever. close
right.
that
And
permit
she
down.
said they might have closed out the electrical permit and plumbing permit, but the overall permit just never got closed out. They might have taken out a permit to do the kitchen, decided not to do the kitchen, so there's just an open permit. And to penalize someone, for.
Yeah, how do you close that out?
Or
right?
it
You
got
just close
closed and
it.
nobody cashed
Go,
the
go,
check.
go finish your kitchen. but
No.
I won't.
If you took out a permit and you didn't do the work, you just close the permit out. It's that simple.
Well, then what's the then what would
So
be?
say, okay,
Like
so
devil's advocate, what's the problem then? Somebody says, if the idea behind the construction department is to say, listen, we got a mess with our files. We
Yes.
got hundreds of cases that are just open, right? Then what's the harm with requiring properties as they flip, close that stuff out? So
because they already
can-
do that, the realtors already do that. And they said if you require it, then that would make the town liable on the legal aspect.
But the realtors do it, they do it by and amongst themselves, right? And they say, okay, we pulled this, you only have this open permit, what's going on? And the other person says, oh, I didn't want to do it. And no harm, no foul. It doesn't clean it up vis-a-vis our construction department.
Well, you have to close out the permit before you close.
So you're saying that they
They
part of
they
this,
said
they
no
make it a
property will
condition in the
close.
contract?
No property, yes, exactly, that the lawyers handle it. Well, first the realtors do an attorney review before they even become under contract, and then a lawyer will do it if the realtors did not. And they said that a property will not close with open permits unless it's something that's still ongoing and that the buyer has agreed to leave the permit open, like for example, with my oil tank. Right. But it's not like, oh, you don't know about it. And they said they actually recommend upgrading our technology, just like Bernardsville and Basking Ridge, where you can just pull right on the website.
Yeah, I like that.
And
You do have private sales, where you don't have people checking this.
Well, they have mostly you have lawyers, right?
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it's only as good as the lawyers and or the realtors working on that deal.
Yeah, but that would be still, a private sale still wouldn't, I guess, then require a CO or a fire inspection either, if it was just a private sale, no?
Yeah, do we require a CLO on an exchange of a deed? And I take it then when they're looking at that, that's probably an opportunity to see whether there's anything else out.
And also that you asked me to ask them about Branchburg. So Branchburg that has the jail time policy is 100% not enforced. They said all Branchburg requires is a CO. So they sell houses there all the time. They just told me, because I did ask about that. No one has gone to jail
Yeah,
yet.
no, it's got the stripes on it for that.
So again, according to two realtors that work in the area for different companies and the owners of a local real estate agency, they all, that's what they had to say is what I reported out on, and that they agree with the fee increases and they do not agree with having a requirement for people to pull an Oprah request. But if you want to be transparent, then upgrade your technology and have it so anybody can pull that.
And Gene, when I was talking to Ken last time, because, obviously he was couching this as kind of a revenue kind of increase for the
Right.
construction office. At the
Right.
same time, hey, this is a cost on a residence. Well, if we're going to do that, well, we damn well better provide better service, right?
Mhm.
So what do we automate? What do we mechanize? In your case, you're saying, look, put it up on the website, right?
Yeah.
So when you have the meeting on Wednesday, can you speak with Ken about exploring opportunities to do just that? What can we do better? What can we deliver quicker? Is it the time we turn the permits around? Is putting them on the website so people can see what outstanding permits there are, whatever it is? Because I think that would then justify, or at least make me feel better about the fact that we're raising those rates.
Yes.
That sounds like also a conversation with Vishant to see if we've got the software
Right.
to do that.
Right, and that, I'm sure that would probably require a software purchase, but then
Absolutely.
again, that would be the construction officer who would propose that to the township.
To IT and then
committee.
figure out
Yeah,
how to,
mhm,
right,
or
how do we do
to-
it?
right.
But at least then we've got the ball rolling and trying to figure out how can we bring ourselves into the 21st century?
Mhm. Okay, and make ourselves comparable, right? We want to
We
move
should be,
our fee, we want to increase our fees to be comparable to surrounding towns, but then we should also
deliver the same service.
deliver the same service,
Absolutely.
exactly. So that's where we're at with that.
Good,
Okay.
great.
Anyone else have
That's a good
anything you want me
update.
to discuss with the CO, with the construction officer?
Nope.
And ask them when they'll close out the files.
Yeah.
Recycling update. So this is an issue that was presented to us from Jeff Leonard from Wynwood and also from Hills North Master Association. So this, the comment was sort of twofold. One is, might be a third element of it. So we start off with COVID, reliance on Amazon and all the other delivery services for everything that you used to go shopping in person for. So everything that's delivered to you comes in a box. And the box has sometimes other boxes inside the box. So one comment was there was just an overflowing situation in many of the neighborhoods in the hills where the recycling, cardboard recycling dumpsters were overflowing, or those that were using, or just they're being stockpiled with wind and rain and everything else. It was becoming a mess. And sometimes folks were just taking the recycling, and if the recycling dumpster was full, they were throwing it in the garbage. And now you're displacing the garbage with recycling, and then garbage was piling up next to the garbage, creating vermin and other little nasty situations out there. So that was one element. Second element was, if this is going to become a long-term situation, is there something that the county can do on a more consistent basis, either more frequent pickups or larger dumpsters? And then the third element was, as the county has been rolling out the new recycling bins for single-family homes, and now you go from having the blue bin to having two relatively large garbage-sized, I forget what they're, 64-gallon, 72-gallon containers. Look like big garbage cans, but they're big. One dedicated for paper and cardboard, and the other for other mixed recyclables of plastic, glass, and aluminum. So these are large. So the concern was, hey, if that's going to get rolled out into the hills, and you've got small garages, some of these folks barely have enough room to fit their vehicles in, let alone accommodate those two recycling cans or canisters. So I'd reached out to Colleen Marr, who's the county administrator, to set up a call with the reps from the associations and the master on this issue. And Colleen was great. So within a couple days, we actually had a call scheduled with Paul McCall, who is the Somerset County DPW director, and he is in charge of the recycling operation by the county. And I think, I'm not sure, Renee was on the call, Doug, you were on the call as well. And Dawn, were you on the call? No, Dawn was on.
Barbara was from.
Oh, Barbara was there from Hills Village,
Yeah.
right. So I think we had, 10, 11, 12 reps from the different associations. And the good news is, so for those in the associations where you have garages, you're not going to get stuck with those large recycling. I'm going to call them cans. They're not cans, but you're not going to get stuck with those totes. Right, that's what they're
Which is
called.
still a weird
They're called
word.
totes. So you're not
That's a
going
tote.
to get this. You're not going to get those totes. That's good news. The county is going to do a tour of essentially every association that uses the dumpsters, because the county is now rolling out a new set of pickup vehicles. So they're not, I think their move is they're going away from the back loaded dumpsters to the side load, or front loaders. So where they pick it up from the front and dump it in. This requires different dumpsters. It also requires access for the vehicles to come in. So they're going to have to coordinate with the county and the associations to see what's going to work. Because what would be work in one association may not work in a different association.
Those trucks don't have people to roll out the bins like they do now.
Right.
There's somebody helping pulling them out from where they are right now.
So the county's move is obviously towards a more efficient pickup. But the associations, when they built their garbage enclosures or the recycling enclosures, they were built for a different purpose. They were built for whatever was convenient for the garbage pickup at that time. So now that, to some extent, technology has moved forward, what was in place before may not work now. So there definitely was, there's the prospects for a big disconnect between what the county wants to roll out and what the associations want. So the good news is that the county understands. And Paul was very aware of the situation, and he was aware of the constraints, and he's going to be coming out personally to look at each facility. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is there may not always be an easy accommodation. And I think that he talked about it. He said, there may be situations where your current recycling situation has to change. And we'll work with you guys. If it's a new dumpster, if it's a new location, there's something that we can work with you all to make sure, I think the term he used, that we're all mutually inconvenienced or we're all mutually happy. So we're ready to work with you guys as best we can. This is something I think that's going to be developed. And we'll see some more follow-up from the county. There's no urgency right now from the county, right? There is no prospect like, this is coming down next week and you guys better do this right away. So they understand that they may be sending one truck out to Cortland and another truck going out to Edgewood, because they just know that's the way it works. And they've got the varied vehicles right now, and they're going to be in that situation for a while. But things are going to change, down the road, whether it's 2, 3, 4 years down the road. But the good news is that we've got the county director was available. And he also made clear that if there's a chance, and he heard this story from many of the association presidents, if there's a missed pickup, give him a call. Give him a call and he will make sure that the truck goes back out. If there was some reason that, that it was missed, whether there was something blocking it or something else, he's ready to send his crews back out there. So that you don't end up in a situation where you go 2 weeks, you've missed the one pickup, and now it's just completely overflowing with recycling, which then spills over into garbage pickup. So both you guys were on the call. And
You think you nailed it? They had mentioned a willingness to at least consider additional pickups, but I don't think they're there yet. They want to sort of get their hands around where they are with the current turnover. But yeah, I mean, I got the sense that the county, they're not afraid to say, we don't have all the answers. We know it's a work in process. So they expect it to be a collaborative process. So I was very encouraged by the whole.
They were already considering a smaller tote versus those 65-gallon ones. So
Right.
that will be helpful. I mean, we could put a smaller one in our unit versus the round tub, and that will be fine. So that's good that they've got options already on the table for.
right,
little small
and so I should talk about that a little, because not only that does that apply to the condos, but actually applies to the single family. So in our family of 6, your family of 5, you know what? Those big 65-gallon totes, yeah. We can,
Bring it on.
we can fill, we
I can take it.
between, the cardboard and
The
paper and
cardboard,
newspapers,
Yeah.
we can use that up, but,
Well, we could too. There's just no place to put it in the
Yeah.
little garage.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm parking in the parking lot.
but for the families or, if there are, units where,
Rentals. They said the apartment buildings.
Right.
Rentals, they know folks have to drag that in and out of their apartment building. They understand you can't take the big tote. So it's not like you must have it. They're willing to work with you.
or if you, you live in a single family home and it's just, 1 or 2 of you, and you're not creating that recycling, they do have smaller totes that are available.
Yeah, they should have told everybody that. I know like my garbage pickup has the big 65-gallon one that we use, but it also has smaller ones, and they both work with that truck that just
Yes.
automatically
Right,
picks
right.
it up. So like before delivering the giant ones, they maybe should have asked people, because I did hear a lot of
Well, I
complaints
think
about
he
that.
said they don't have a lot of those,
Oh.
and they're actually
Yes.
not gonna be able to get more of those because they have an issue with the raw material to make the tote.
Oh, get out.
So,
They need more
so we've got
recycling.
a little bit of a delay in they need to recycle better. But there's a little bit delay in the availability of those, so that might be why they didn't
Yeah.
let everybody know.
It was very strange how he sort of described it. He said, shh, don't tell anyone. We have a few of these smaller totes
Yeah.
that also work for the trucks, but we just don't have a lot of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But, so he said, but if there was, and he said if there was a senior resident
Right.
who had difficulty maneuvering the large one, we can make an accommodation. We're not there yet
Yeah.
across the board for those smaller totes. The anticipation is that eventually they will be.
And like you said, they're not rushing this to switch over to totes yet. It's a 5-year-long plan, so there's some time.
So when you guys have your marijuana discussion with the associations, you can also ask them if they've had any further follow-up with Somerset County DPW. And I do want to once again thank DPW Director Paul McCall and County Administrator Colleen Marr for cooperating with our request. Okay, DOT improvements. Do we still have the chief? We don't have the chief anymore. I have followed up with DOT, with our contacts at DOT twice now, see if we can get a construction schedule for the DOT improvements for River Road Jug Handle and for Hills Drive. I'm waiting on a response from Meredith. And when I have a response from her, I will let you guys all know. And one other old business that's not on the agenda, Purnell School. So I've had additional meetings with representatives from Purnell and trying to help facilitate a disposition of the school, and once again, maintaining the direction for a preference that a new school or an existing school that be looking at that property to further educational interests and to maintain the use of the property as we know it. So there have been some developments in that, and hopefully by the time we have our next meeting, hopefully can report on something more concrete than this vague update I'm giving you right now. Let me repeat that as a purposefully vague update. But things are proceeding, I believe, in a positive direction that I think would be good for Bedminster and for the residents and around that property. And I think that'd be good. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hopefully something good comes out of it. We do have an executive session tonight, so we'll go through Township Committee comments and we will return to open session. It will not be midnight. Right? It won't be?
No.
Okay, it will not be midnight. So we'll go through Township Committee comments. We will be returning. We will not be taking formal action when we return to open session. So let's move to Township Committee comments. Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. My only comment really was to follow up on our meeting update we got from Dawn Marsh tonight. I just wanted to say thank you for that, and to just on a larger point, just again affirm to all of our volunteers that serve on our boards and our committees that, you know, thank you so much, because what you do in your committees makes our life so much easier. It works when you have buy-in, right? You have boards actively rolling their sleeves up, doing things. Plus, when you serve on the boards, it feels like you got a purpose. You're not just showing up and showing, you know, going to a meeting and showing up the following month. You're digging in. So, you know, having this come from residents knocking on doors to say, hey, you know, what's going on with the pond over there, to then speaking with the folks in this chamber, to then referring it out to EC and getting such a robust report with options like that, you know, again, it makes our life so much easier. So thank you for all your hard work, Dawn, and everybody on your committee, but, you know, all the other commissions and committees that we hear from through our updates. I just think that they should be recognized, and thanks for that.
Very common. Committeeman Hickey. I almost said Stevenson.
He's so good, we'll do him twice. This is
He's
the
so
problem.
good. He's coming with so good. We're going to do it again.
And that's the problem. It's hard to follow him, Dawn, but again, to echo my fellow committeeman's comments, great job. I also want to recognize our local volunteer fire companies. I know we discussed some resolutions before. I don't know if you're aware, but there was a big accident today on Route 206 between a tractor trailer and a dump truck, which shut down the road. I know at least Bedminster Far Hills 29 was on scene. And when you look at the photos, you will say, wow, it was a serious accident. I believe they had to airlift the dump truck driver, get him to the hospital.
That was up on 206, right?
Correct. It was right near the,
Between Collins and Collinsville.
yes, exactly. Where they, the
It's
new,
on the news.
yeah, where the new construction's
really?
going on.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, you know, Mimi got stuck in the traffic going north to Chester, and we certainly heard the sirens early morning.
You see those photos and you're like, I mean, overturned tractor trailer, dump truck with, you know, pieces all over the road. And again, it's as Doug just mentioned, you know, our local volunteers, be it in any capacity, you know, these guys every day, they're out there, you know, risking themselves. And, you know, like I said, they run to.
It was too much going to the pond.
Oh, you never know.
Although there were spiders,
And there's poison, might be poison ivy. That's it, you know, but.
but he did buy new boots for the whole thing.
So you got that going for you.
And I did not charge that to you.
Thank you. So just a thank you to all of them for the great job they do on a day in and day out basis.
Great, thank you, Committeewoman Moreski.
Thank you, Mayor. You guys were mentioning the gem that we have in our pond. Thank you for the presentation, although I've heard it about 8 times by now, but that's fine. We have a little gem called CCA right by Pluckerman Park. It's our Center for Contemporary Art. And last Friday, I got to participate in a fundraiser, and it was called Art a la carte. And it was 2 sessions of Zoom breakout rooms, and they did some presentations. They had some painters and sculptors and walking around the art center. And I just want to remind people, we have things like that in our town, and that people should look into it if they like any kind of artwork, any photography. And it's over by our revamped Pluckerman Park. So it's a beautiful little corner, kind of out of the way. But I just want to remind people that that's there. Please take a look and see what you find interesting.
Good, thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
I just want to echo the sentiments everyone already said. Congrats to Mr. Healy on his appointment to Far Hills Bedminster Far Hills Fire Department, and to all of our hometown heroes who volunteer their time and service to make our town a better place. I just want to reiterate that it's fantastic news that 6 Larkspur Court COs were issued and that life can get back to normal for those residents that are no longer displaced. That's wonderful news. And thank you to Dawn for the informative pond presentation and to the entire EC for their recommendation options.
Okay, so couple things. Memorial Day Parade, it's on.
Yeah, that's good news.
Memorial Day Parade is on. Get your sashes. We have sashes? Do we have anything?
Well, you have the old ones.
I'm gonna be in Ohio, so my niece's graduation.
I just realized that I actually have, I think this one's probably a little folded up. And
Where did you
just
have
I'll
ironed,
take
but
that.
I never gave it
Where
back.
did you put that?
It was in my bag. I
In
meant
his
to give it
briefcase?
to you,
Where did he pull that
a
out
year
of? You're like a
ago.
Now
magician.
Robin's gonna have to iron it.
And she's only got one hand.
9-finger red.
Oh.
So Memorial Day Parade, thank you to Far Hills Bedminster, 29 Fire, 29 First Aid, and Pottersville Fire 63 for once again putting together the Memorial Day Parade. It's going to go off. All right, it's outside, and I did coordinate with the governor's office, making sure that this was actually before the CDC announcement came out, but that we were given the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go ahead with your Memorial Day Parade. Governor's office, will be fine with it. Then the CDC guidance came out, so that, cemented it for sure. So that's great. Once again, no greater reflection of small town, what we have here in Bedminster and our friends over in Far Hills than the Bedminster Far Hills Memorial Day Parade. So hope to see you guys all out there.
Wait, Mayor, can I just interject? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
you can. Of course.
The
I'm not, it's not like
I'm sorry.
I can't stop you anyway.
I'm sorry. I forgot about that. So the Memorial Day Parade, the rec department is doing a Memorial Day video for residents or family of residents that they would like to honor in the video. So if you have any, or please, email them to Neil Mastrobono. And I think the information's on our website.
Is it that they're looking for vets?
Yeah, well, how we do like the Field of Honor, you kind of honor like your,
So they're not looking for like warm and fuzzy photos of like you and your pet. They want something with Memorial
Yeah.
Day that's
yeah,
apropos. to it.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
And, so this is essentially, I think I said it before, this is the last Township Committee meeting before Memorial Day, and then also before the farmer's market. So once again, thank you to Neil Mastrobono and Robin, of course. There's a lot more goodies that we'll be providing at the Bedminster Farmers Market. The seeds have been ordered. We've got the herbs coming in. That type of herb, pollen.
Perennial favorite.
So the herb seeds, I think we're doing basil,
And I forget the other one.
and I forget the other.
Was it a lettuce?
Probably.
It might be a lettuce. I know it's basil.
There were two things that Colin actually eats, so I
So
think that
would be lettuce and basil.
limits it
That's pretty much it.
to basil and maybe lettuce. So we'll have those seeds available also as a giveaway for
Lettuce and
that,
basil seeds.
for the first week of the farmer's market, right, for as long as we have them. And, once again, thank you everyone for, just working together and moving things along. We'll take a motion to go to executive session. It's 8:58.
So move. Oops.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
Thank you,
everyone who came
everyone.
out tonight. in person or remotely. And John, we'll move you to
Breakout.
the breakout room and we will return hopefully shortly.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Good
John.
night, Dawn.
Thanks, Dawn.
I'll talk to you in a
I'll
while.
email it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Um,
that.
No
You
problem.
gotta stop recording first, right?
Thank you.
Are we coming back?
Yeah, we should
Okay.
get home, she got home at 1:30, huh?
Oh, poor girl.
Okay, so it is, it's 11:59, so we beat our last meeting by 3 minutes. No, it's not. It's 9:39. We are back from executive session. Thank you, Doug, for that report out. And we are done for the night. So maybe we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night from Arundel, Maine.
Good night,
Good
Mr.
night.
Velardo.
Well done.
Bye.
Bye.
So Deb, since you're sitting,
Hold on, let me
I'm
just
not
stop
sitting
this
here, the meeting's
recording.
over.